Lowry, the pretty Potsy. I've decided to make a video today on traveling. I have a follower who recently asked me if I could talk about some tips and tricks. And one of the most difficult things about having POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, is the uncertainty of how we are going to feel on a day-to-day basis. So planning ahead is very important. I sort of like to call it loading up. So in the days before you travel, you need to load up. Load up on your fluids, load up on your electrolytes, and load up on your rest. And you want to find a good balance. You don't want to rest too much. You want to be active enough that you keep your blood flowing, but you want to rest enough to sort of build up your endurance for your traveling. And I have some tips and things that I do when I'm traveling with my POTS to make it better, to make it easier, and to ensure that I'm going to feel better while I'm on my trip. And I am excited to share some of those things with you guys today. So thank you for watching. I'm Lowry, the pretty Potsy, and I have on my pink. It's Valentine's Day today. I have some new shoes. I know you guys understand with POTS, you get blood pooling in your legs and your ankles, and you tend to have cankles. So I like buying shoes that come up a little bit higher. So these are my new pink shoes. So happy Valentine's Day. I have a couple of things that I use when traveling, and I'm going to show those first. Besides loading up ahead of time, which is going to be really helpful for you on your trip, it's good to have a couple of things. This is a neck pillow. It fits in a little bag. Whether you're traveling by car or plane, it's really handy to have one of these. When you have POTS, you need to get as much blood flow to your brain as you can. So if you're traveling and you have your neck like this, if you fall asleep in the car or on the airplane, you have your neck like this, you're going to block some of the important blood vessels that are bringing blood to your brain, and you're going to get even less blood to your brain. Also, when you're traveling, you're not moving a lot, you're sitting a lot, and so you're going to have blood pooling in your legs and your feet. So it's really important to keep as much blood in your brain as you can. So if you get one of these pillows, and it's going to puff up a little bit more, it's going to keep your head upright. It's going to keep those blood vessels flowing and bringing that oxygenated blood up to your brain. So even if you fall asleep, you're not going to cut off some of that circulation going into your brain. So this is really important, I think, when you're traveling, sitting in a car or an airplane for a long time. Next is a mask, a sleep mask. You POTSies will understand this, but part of your autonomic nervous system that is not functional is your eyes and the way they dilate and constrict. And so bright lights can bother you when you're on an airplane. If someone turns on the light above you, if someone opens their window and your eyes were already in the dark, it can bother your eyes. When you're in the car, the sunlight coming in, or if you're driving at night, all of the bright lights coming at you can bother you. So a sleep mask is something good to have when you're ready to relax and rest. And not only can you close your eyes to block out the light, but this really helps to block out any extra light for your eyes to help you get a good rest while you're traveling. And this is my favorite traveling contraption. I ordered this on Amazon, and you can probably find one very easily. This is a footrest. So when you're traveling, you can actually hang this in front of you, okay, and put your feet up in it. And so you can hang it on the airplane seat in front of you. You can even hang, if you're sitting in the back seat of a car, you can even hang it on the seat in front of you. And it's going to keep your feet elevated. It's going to keep that blood flowing. And even if you're sitting and not moving for a while, it's going to help your circulation. So when you get where you're going, you're going to feel better. So those are 3 travel things that I think are essential to have. And earlier I mentioned how important it is to sort of preload. Just like an athlete, before they run a marathon, they might eat a big bowl of pasta the night before. So we're going to do the same thing by drinking a lot of electrolytes, a lot of fluids, and getting a lot of salt and rest before our trip. And that's going to help ensure that when we wake up the first day, we're ready to go, that we're going to have a good day. When I am traveling in the airport, I typically get a wheelchair. Now, I can walk just fine, but airports equal lines. You're standing in a line to check your bag. You're standing in a line to go through security. You're standing in a line to board the plane. And even when you board, you're standing in line waiting to get to your seat. Okay, it is a lot of standing. And you may feel embarrassed. You may think, I don't need a wheelchair. But if you get a wheelchair, it's going to mean that once you get to where you're going to feel better. You're not standing, you're not letting all the blood pool in your legs and your feet. So, vanity aside, if you have someone who can push you, get a wheelchair. They're not going to ask questions. All you have to do is say, I have dysautonomia and I need a wheelchair, and they're going to give you a wheelchair. Now, if you don't want to get a wheelchair, or if you're traveling with friends and you're just embarrassed about it, that makes sense. What you can do is you can talk to the person at the gate and let them know that you need to pre-board, and they will allow you pre-boarding so that you don't have to at least stand in the line for boarding. Oftentimes at security, you can let them know that you can't stand, and they will let you through the VIP line for security at the airport. Otherwise, what you can do while you're waiting for security is to sit on your suitcase. So this is me sitting on my suitcase. Just sit on your suitcase. I have a big suitcase, comes up to about here on rollers, and I roll it, and then I stop and I sit on it. And it's actually perfect for traveling, especially when you get to where you're going and you're waiting for your cab, you're waiting for your ride, you're waiting for your Uber. You can just sit on your suitcase. So that's one of my tips. You always want to have fluids handy on your trip. You want to always have them. It's so important, especially airplanes are really dry, so it's going to mean you need extra fluids. I'm having electrolytes. I try to get 3 liters of water a day. And when I'm traveling, I get even more than that. And then you want to prepare ahead of time your electrolytes, whether you're having Nun tablets, Propel, emergency electrolytes, whatever kind of electrolytes you have, you want to make sure you bring a lot with you, because you're going to need it when you're traveling, especially if you're going somewhere for fun and maybe you want to have a drink or two. You need to balance out any alcohol you have with extra electrolytes and extra fluids. Another thing I want to talk about for traveling is that when you have POTS, you're going to feel your best when you have a routine, when you know what to expect, when your body knows what to expect. So when you're traveling, your routine is all out of whack. So you want to make sure that you're taking the time for yourself, to put your feet up, to be in a quiet room without a lot of stimulation. And you want to make sure that you're taking time to drink a lot of fluids. It's so important. Anything that we do for ourselves can impact how we feel later. So that is one of my biggest tips, is just take a little bit of me time. Sometimes when you're traveling, it's go, go, go. You're with other people, you're always in a conversation, and you don't have that downtime. So don't be afraid to excuse yourself, to go take a nap. You can go sit by the pool, whatever you need to do to take a little bit of time just to decompress. When I'm traveling, it's often overwhelming for me. Noises, lights, movement, motion. And so when my brain has that blood deficit, the stimuli can be overwhelming to me. So I will just find somewhere quiet to sit. I usually keep a Kindle book on my phone. So I'll just sit and read a book and just sort of try to relax and be present in the moment. And this is also a time to get a big glass of water and try to hydrate as well. The last thing I want to talk about when traveling is food. When you're traveling, your schedule, can be different than what you normally do. With POTS and dysautonomia, our digestive system is affected. And so when I travel, I know my digestive system is going to get all out of whack because it's been used to a certain routine because I'm home most of the time. And so you need to be really careful about what you're eating. You don't want to eat too much junk food, sugar, or carbs. That is going to require more blood to digest. And so when you've been standing and active, you already have a deficit of blood to your brain, and you don't want to eat heavy meals because that is going to even further reduce the oxygenated blood that is in your brain and make you have more symptoms. I try to eat really small meals when I'm traveling, and I try never let my stomach get all the way empty because I tend to feel more nauseous when it does. So lots of small meals like nuts, cheese sticks, things that are high in protein, low in carb, and also salty are really good for you. And also when you go out to eat at a restaurant, you don't eat your whole meal, eat part of it and take some of it home for later, and avoid a lot of sugar. Sugary alcohol as well. I like to have tequila. It doesn't have too much sugar in it. It's something I can sip on, and tequila is actually good for your digestive system. I find that it's sort of like an aperitif, and so it helps me when I am eating different kinds of foods. So I don't drink much, but if I'm out with friends, I might want to have a little bit of tequila. You can try it and see what you think. I also get the sparkling hard ciders sometimes. Those have very low sugar. It's almost like drinking water, but it has a little bit of alcohol in it. I would limit yourself to one drink a day, and maybe the last day of your trip to kind of indulge a little bit more, but be careful because then you have your travel day the next day, and you want to do the same thing you did at the start of your trip. You want to load up on your fluids and your sodium and your electrolytes so that you have a good travel day at the last part of your trip. Now, I don't know where you're going for your trip, but if you're going somewhere hot and you've been at home in a cold climate, it may be a little bit of a shock to your autonomic nervous system. The temperature change, that could really affect you. So make sure that you're dressing accordingly, that you have layers and options. So if you get hot, if you have a tank top underneath your t-shirt with a jacket over it, so that you can always try to stay comfortable. If you're going to be out in the sun a lot, you want to be really careful. Try to make sure you're drinking a lot of fluids. Being overheated is a big trigger for POTS, so make sure that you're not getting overheated. A little trick that I do, if it's really hot out, I'll put an ice cube on my wrist, and that does really help me feel cooler faster. Another thing is, if it's really hot out, limit your outdoor activities and just be really careful to drink extra fluids. I hope that this has given you some tips for when you travel. I would love it if anyone has additional suggestions to comment below. If you want to subscribe, I would be so honored. I am going to try to do a couple of videos a week with content related to POTS, ways to help your POTS, and just information on postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. My next video, I will be talking about my doctor visit. I went to Mayo this week and met with my neurologist, and she gave me some additional things that I can try. And I have to go back and get another tilt table test. So I will also be doing a video on the results of that. Thank you, POTSies, for watching. Thank you, family and friends of POTSies, for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I hope everyone is having a day with no POTS symptoms. Happy travels. Bye.